The Mortal Kombat video game series is one of the most popular fighting games of all time. At the same time, it is also one of the most controversial video game series ever made due to blood violence and gore. This game series has spawned toys, live-action movies, live-action shows, a short-lived animated series, and tons of merchandise as well. This game also has a very interesting timeline that has been rebooted not once, but twice, or multiple times depending on the story of the game. With the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection right around the corner, I decided to make this the second episode of World of Timelines. So combatants, prepare yourselves for the Mortal Kombat timeline. Pre-Mortal Kombat. Millions of years ago, Shinnok, one of the Elder Gods, turned on his fellow deities and conquered the Earth. The Thunder God, Raiden, and the other Elder Gods stopped Shinnok and sealed him inside of the Netherrealm. But his actions did not cease with such punishment, as he would join with a necromancer named Quan Chi to overthrow the Netherrealm's previous ruler, Lucifer. There were others like Shinnok who were interested in conquering the Earthrealm, such as the tyrannical ruler of Outworld, Shao Kahn. Shao Kahn had overthrown the previous ruler of Outworld, the Dragon King Onaga. So Raiden and the other Elder Gods enacted a sacred tournament called Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat is a martial arts tournament about one realm invading the other if won 10 consecutive times. It also gives other realms a chance to defend themselves against greater odds. Outworld has won 10 consecutive tournaments against the realm of Edenia and killed its king, Jared. Shao Kahn took Queen Sindel as his wife and Kitana as his adoptive daughter. Not wanting Earthrealm to suffer the same fate as Edenia, Sindel took her own life, but not before casting a magic seal that can prevent Shao Kahn from entering Earthrealm. Her body was free, but her soul was not, as it was taken by Kahn. Realizing that Kitana would one day learn the truth, Shao Kahn had sorcerer Shang Tsung create a clone of Kitana that is loyal to Shao Kahn. Thus, Mileena was born. She had the appearance of an Edenian, but her blood was Tarkatan. The Mortal Kombat tournament will go into Earthrealm, and the first champion was the great Kung Lao of the Shaolin Temple. But then, Goro will kill Kung Lao and become the reigning champion for 9 generations, and Shang Tsung would remain the overseer of the tournament. Mortal Kombat Special Forces is where the story begins before the tournament. Kano, leader of the Black Dragon criminal organization, has freed his gang from a maximum security prison. U.S. Army Major Jax Briggs, seeking revenge for the slaughter of his Special Forces comrades at the hands of the Black Dragon, undertakes a mission to stop them from retrieving an artifact of great power called the Eye of Chitian. The true power of the artifact is shown in the ending that it can open portals to other realms, where Jax uses an artifact to teleport himself and Kano back to Earthrealm after defeating him. Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero is another story that is set before the events of the 10th tournament. A Lin Kuei assassin named Bi-Han, also known as Sub-Zero, is hired by Quan Chi to steal a sacred map of elements at the Shaolin Temple in China. There, he encounters Hanzo Hasashi, also known as Scorpion, a ninja assassin of the Japanese clan known as the Shirai Ryu, longtime enemies and rivals of the Lin Kuei. The two warriors avoid many Shaolin monks and traps until they duel against each other to the death. Sub-Zero manages to eliminate Scorpion by taking his head. Once he steals the map, he returns to Lin Kuei headquarters. He becomes furious once he learns that Quan Chi also hired Scorpion in case Sub-Zero failed. The Lin Kuei Grandmaster then receives the bones of the Grandmaster of the Shirai Ryu clan and is satisfied when Quan Chi tells him that the entire clan is wiped out. Quan Chi then returns the services of Sub-Zero once again, and he must head to the Temple of Elements to retrieve an amulet, which is of sentimental value to the Necromancer. Sub-Zero then fights and defeats the Wind God Fujin, as well as the gods of Earth, Water, and Fire. When Sub-Zero is about to touch the amulet, Quan Chi appears as he excitedly holds Shinnok's amulet. This amulet was the source of the fallen Elder God's powers, and then Quan Chi disappears to the Netherrealm. Raiden then appears furious at Sub-Zero for his actions and sends him to the Netherrealm to retrieve the amulet. Once Sub-Zero enters the Netherrealm, he is trapped in the Prison of Souls by Quan Chi's guards. There, he meets the undead specter of his nemesis, Scorpion, who blames Sub-Zero for the death of his family and clan. The two engage in a fight, which Sub-Zero wins again. He then escapes from the Prison of Souls and heads to Shinnok's fortress, where he fights against Quan Chi's underlings, Kia, Jataka, and Serena. The latter, however, was spared by Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero then enters Quan Chi's lair, who tells him that the amulet is already around Shinnok's neck. He also tells him the reason why Raiden sent him to the Netherrealm is because it is a place for evil beings, and that his soul is tainted with evil. Therefore, he belongs to the Netherrealm and asks Sub-Zero to join the Brotherhood of Shadow and worship the fallen Elder God. Sub-Zero refuses to join Quan Chi, and the two of them fight. Serena then turns on Quan Chi and throws him off the bridge. She pleads with Sub-Zero to take her with him as she has waited for an eternity to escape, but suddenly, she is incapacitated by Shinnok. Sub-Zero then fights against Shinnok and manages to remove the amulet from him. Shinnok then turns into a beast as the portal opens and Sub-Zero escapes, or defeats the monster depending on the player's choice. He delivers the amulet to Raiden, who tells him that he should thank himself for undoing a mistake and preventing the Earthrealm from being destroyed. Sub-Zero wonders if his soul is tainted with evil, and Raiden tells him that only he can change his destiny. He returns to Lin Kuei headquarters where the Grandmaster welcomes him. He is then invited by a sorcerer named Shang Tsung to compete in a small tournament called Mortal Kombat. The very first game in the Mortal Kombat series was released in 1992 and was a rival to Street Fighter. However, it was one of the most controversial games of the time due to blood, violence, and gore, which appalled many parents, the media, and politicians as well. This is a game that started the ESRB. In this game's story, this is the 10th tournament after 9 Outworld victories. The Thunder God Raiden mentors 3 of the fighters: Liu Kang, a Shaolin monk; Johnny Cage, a Hollywood movie star who enters the tournament to prove himself; and Sonya Blade, a Special Forces soldier who enters the tournament to apprehend Kano. Scorpion and Sub-Zero are also participating in the tournament. It is not known who fights who, but it is known that Liu Kang emerges as the top fighter of the tournament. He exploits Goro's overconfidence and defeats the Shokan warrior. He faces off against Shang Tsung, the final challenge of the tournament. Not willing to let Earthrealm win, Goro is ready to attack Liu Kang from behind. Johnny and Sonya form an uneasy alliance with Kano and manage to stop Goro from attacking Liu Kang, who succeeds in defeating Shang Tsung. Liu Kang's victory ended Outworld's winning streak, and Shang Tsung's island was about to be destroyed. Sonya and Kano disappear, and Scorpion and Sub-Zero engage in a third and final duel, in which Scorpion kills Sub-Zero. Raiden teleports Liu Kang and Johnny Cage to a Special Forces ship where they are interrogated by Jax. Johnny told Jax about the events on the island, but the Major didn't believe him. Liu Kang will return home to the Shaolin Temple, and Johnny Cage will go back to Hollywood, where he made the movie Mortal Kombat based on his experiences. Facing execution for his failure, Shang Tsung appeased Shao Kahn to grant him a second chance by capturing Sonya and Kano and suggesting a new tournament that can be held back in Outworld. And so, Shao Kahn restores Shang Tsung's youth to even the odds against Liu Kang. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Liu Kang returns home to find it in ruins as his Shaolin brothers were killed in a violent attack by Tarkatans led by Baraka. Enraged, Liu Kang decides to go to Outworld and participate in the tournament as he is joined by Raiden, Kung Lao, descendant of the great Kung Lao, and Lin Kuei assassins Smoke and Sub-Zero. This Sub-Zero is the younger brother of Bi-Han, Kuai Liang. Jax Briggs received a distress call from Sonya in Outworld and realizes that Cage was telling the truth. He went to Hollywood to personally apologize to the actor and saw Baraka attacking him while he was filming a commercial. Jax saved Johnny Cage from his attackers, which also included Kitana, Melina, Jade, and Reptile. Then, Raiden and the others met up with Jax and Cage, and they all headed for Outworld to participate in Shao Kahn's tournament. In this story, Kitana learns the truth about her realm and parents, which she ends up defecting to Raiden's side and convinces Jade to do the same. In this journey, Liu Kang began to fall in love with Kitana, who also realized that Mileena is not her twin sister, but a grotesque clone of her created by Shang Tsung. Mileena then learns of Kitana's betrayal and tries to kill her, but Kitana defeats her, thus proving herself the better fighter. Scorpion is also participating in this tournament and becomes furious upon realizing that Sub-Zero is there as well. But he realizes that this Cryomancer is not like the one he fought and killed. So instead, Scorpion becomes Sub-Zero's secret protector. Once again in the story, Liu Kang emerges as a top fighter and defeats a rejuvenated Shang Tsung, defeats Kintaro, and faces off against Shao Kahn himself and is victorious. Sonya is freed, and Kano escapes. Our heroes flee from Outworld, and Sonya and Jax warn their superiors about the invasion, but no one believes them. Smoke was captured by the Lin Kuei to be cyberized. Shao Kahn was not willing to lose. He was ready to invade Earthrealm. Shortly after his defeat, Shao Kahn concocted a 10,000-year-old plan after the Outworld tournament to resurrect Queen Sindel and brainwash her. Once she was resurrected, her magic ward was broken, thus allowing Shao Kahn to invade the Earth. He would send his extermination squads to hunt down surviving humans, and he would take their souls altogether. In this story, Smoke and Sub-Zero were escaping from the Lin Kuei as their clan was trying to turn them into cyborgs. Smoke was captured by Cyrex and Sector and forced to become a cyborg as part of the clan cyber initiative. Jade would join Raiden at Kitana's request. During the invasion, Johnny Cage is killed by Motaro but is brought back to life later on. New warriors introduced in this story are Kabal, Sector, Cyrax, Sindel, Nightwolf, and Curtis Stryker. Kitana confronts her mother, Sindel, who reminds her of Edenia and her husband, Jared. Khan's control over Sindel is broken, and she ends up on the side of the Forces of Light. Kitana also manages to eliminate Mileena. Smoke was also freed from control by Sub-Zero, but remained cyberized. In the final battle, Kung Lao was apparently killed by Shao Kahn. This gives Liu Kang the rage necessary to defeat the Emperor for a second time. Shao Kahn and his forces retreated to Outworld, and Sindel regained control of Edenia once again. With Earth restored back to normal, Sonya Blade and Jax form the Outer World Investigation Agency to protect Earthrealm from interdimensional threats. And Liu Kang begins to train a new generation of Shaolin monks. They call to you. Some time has passed after the events of Mortal Kombat 3, and Shinnok has returned from the Netherrealm. He set his sights on the realm of Edenia and allies himself with a treacherous Edenian named Tanya. With the help of Quan Chi, Shinnok resurrects the fallen warriors that died during Outworld's invasion of Earthrealm. Queen Sindel was captured by the armies of the Netherrealm, and Kitana was forced to flee. She was able to inform Lord Raiden of the situation, and with his assistance reclaim Edenia. Once again, Liu Kang proved himself to be the champion of not only Mortal Kombat, but the Earth as well, by defeating Shinnok and sending him back to the Netherrealm. Scorpion is manipulated into believing that Sub-Zero killed his wife and clan, but the latter tells him that although the Lin Kuei were responsible for his clan's eradication, his wife and child's true killer is free. It turns out that it is none other than Quan Chi, and Scorpion takes the Necromancer to the Netherrealm to torture him for a long time. Kai and Liu Kang then train a new generation of Shaolin monks. Liu Kang is thanked by Kitana for saving Earthrealm and helping her save Edenia. She offers him to rule by her side, but Kang says that his place is on Earthrealm and as champion of Mortal Kombat, and she accepts. Mileena tries to take down Kitana, but Kitana, proving herself the better fighter once again, sends Mileena to the dungeons in the hopes that one day she can reform. Raiden is ascended to the status of an Elder God, and the Wind God Fujin becomes the new protector of Earthrealm. Many years have passed since the events of Mortal Kombat 4. Sub-Zero reformed the Lin Kuei and took in a new apprentice named Frost. Liu Kang and Kai are now training a new generation of Shaolin monks. Meanwhile, on Outworld, sorcerers Shang Tsung and Quan Chi joined forces and became the Deadly Alliance. They plot to revive the ancient undefeatable army of the Dragon King, Onaga, and use it for total domination of the realms. In order to achieve their goals, they killed two major obstacles in their way: Emperor Shao Kahn, who was preparing for battle against Edenia, but in reality, what they killed was a clone of Shao Kahn who revived Goro as he was killed in battle. Goro then realigns himself with the Emperor. Their next target is Earthrealm's champion, Liu Kang, in which they kill him and Shang Tsung takes his soul. Raiden, furious at the Elder Gods for not helping Liu Kang, renounces his status as an Elder God to gather Earth's defenders to fight against this new threat. Kung Lao, who seeks vengeance for his friend Liu Kang's death, trains under the same master who taught his friend, Bo' Rai Cho, who taught him the Whirlwind Kick maneuver. In this story, the forces of light are killed, and the Deadly Alliance is victorious. Raiden tries fighting against them, and despite his best efforts, he is defeated. However, an alliance between villains is usually short-lived, as there is one plotting against the other. Quan Chi and Shang Tsung fight each other, but then they see the Dragon King, Onaga, has resurrected. Raiden is forced to ally himself with the two sorcerers, but their combined powers are not enough to stop this new threat. Raiden sacrificed himself by blowing himself up, but the explosion had little effect on the Dragon King. Onaga emerges from the ruins of the temple holding Shinnok's amulet in his hands. As seen in the beginning of the game, Raiden is defeated by the Deadly Alliance, but Quan Chi and Shang Tsung turn against each other and the Necromancer is victorious. But then, he sees that the Dragon King Onaga has resurrected. Raiden is forced to ally himself with Shang Tsung and Quan Chi to stop this new threat, but even with their combined efforts, it is futile. Raiden uses his power to self-destruct in a last-ditch effort to destroy the Dragon King, but it's nothing to the Dragon King Onaga as he emerges from the ruins with Shinnok's amulet. However, Raiden then returns as a vengeful, furious god who resurrects Liu Kang's body. The zombified Liu Kang starts to wreak havoc, killing many of the Shaolin monks in the process, and the Dragon King resurrects the dead fighters to use them as his puppets. This leads us to meet a young up-and-coming warrior called Shujinko, who is skilled but totally gullible. He meets someone claiming to be an emissary of the Elder Gods who orders him to seek 6 mystical artifacts known as the Kamidogu to further cement his power. The Kamidogu are mystical artifacts created by the Elder Gods millennia ago to create the realms and prevent a powerful entity called the One Being from merging all the realms at the cost of the universe. These Kamidogu form the following realms such as Outworld, Earthrealm, Edenia, Order Realm, Chaos Realm, and the Nether Realm. Shujinko obtains all the artifacts and learns that Onaga has deceived him, which of course pisses him off. Once Shujinko defeats the Dragon King, all the fighters are freed from his control, and Liu Kang's soul has an emotional reunion with his friends, including Kitana. However, Liu Kang is saddened of Raiden's corruption and how his zombified body has been killing his Shaolin brothers. Kitana becomes his spiritual anchor until they can find a way to reunite both body and spirit. Then, a powerful entity called Blaze appears before Kitana, telling her that there will be a battle that will finally decide the fate of all the realms. Kitana sobs as she is stressed by this long battle that has cost everything. Blaze assures her that this is going to be the final battle. This game is the final chapter of the original timeline. Ages of Mortal Kombat have begun to tear and weaken the fabric of the realms as the critical point has finally been reached. Ages ago, an Edenian sorceress named Delia had prophesied the apocalyptic battle of Armageddon. She foresaw that one day the fighters will grow in power and numbers, that their battles will weaken and shatter the realms, and bring about the apocalypse. King Argus, an elder god and husband of Delia, constructs a pyramid where the final battle will take place. This final battle will be against Blaze, who was designed to kill the various fighters from across the realms. In this story, we are introduced to two new characters, Taven and Dagon, both brothers. Both awaken to head to the Pyramid of Argus, obtain the power of Blaze, and become godlike to prevent the Battle of Armageddon, or allow it. Taven is on the side of light, while Dagon sides with the likes of Shao Kahn, Shinnok, and Quan Chi. Now, if you play the game story mode, Taven defeats Blaze and becomes an Elder God who fights to prevent Armageddon. Canonically, that is not the case. It turns out that the Battle of Armageddon does happen, starting with the forces of light against the forces of darkness. Once the Pyramid of Argus rises up, alliances are broken as every fighter plays a game of King of the Hill to the death. All the fighters end up dead with only Shao Kahn and Raiden standing. In this original timeline, Shao Kahn wins the battle and obtains godlike power. Though this game is an 8th entry in the Mortal Kombat franchise, it is not canonical to the main story. It is a standalone story of its own. In this story, the characters of Mortal Kombat have a crossover with the heroes and villains of the DC Universe. Still, the story of this game has references to past titles of the Mortal Kombat series. Both heroes and villains of Mortal Kombat and DC Comics fight against a fusion of Shao Kahn and Darkseid called Dark Kahn. Later, Scorpion would appear in the first Injustice video game, and Sub-Zero and Raiden would appear in the sequel, Injustice 2. As you all know, in the final battle of Armageddon, all the warriors perish. Shao Kahn and Raiden were the only ones standing, with the former defeating Blaze and becoming the victor of this conflict. Before his death at the hands of the Emperor of Outworld, Raiden sends a message to his past self to prevent Armageddon with these final words: he must win. And so, the timeline is reset, and we are back to the events of the first Mortal Kombat story, which is the 10th tournament. Raiden then receives a vision from his future self and notices a crack on his amulet. Now, there are some changes in this alternate timeline. Nightwolf is a participant in the 10th tournament, as well as Sub-Zero, Cyrax, Sector as humans, Quan Chi, Baraka, Shiva, Kitana, and even Kung Lao himself. Johnny Cage at first thinks this is all cosplay, but realizes this is the real deal. Sonya Blade saves her partner Jax from captivity and defeats Kano. Cyrax questions the Lin Kuei as he is speaking out against the Clan Cyber Initiative. The story of the 10th tournament then remains the same, such as Scorpion killing Sub-Zero and Liu Kang emerging the top fighter. Before he fights Goro, he fights against Ermac, who is not one warrior, but a legion of souls. He defeats Ermac, then Goro, and finally Shang Tsung. Raiden sees another crack in his amulet, realizing that Armageddon is still on the cards. Much like in Mortal Kombat 2, Shang Tsung faced execution and suggests a tournament in Outworld. When the Tarkatans attack the Shaolin Temple, Raiden and the Earthrealm warriors have no choice but to attend Khan's tournament. In this story, Jax loses both of his arms because of Ermac while saving Sonya. Kitana learns the truth about Mileena, and to her shock, Shang Tsung is commended, and she is sentenced to be executed in the arena. Smoke is spared from being cyberized by the cybernetic Lin Kuei, but Kuai Liang, the younger brother of Sub-Zero, suffers this fate. This part of the story is where Liu Kang and Raiden are about to come into conflict with each other. Liu Kang says that he is not the one who must win, and Raiden starts to believe that Kung Lao is meant to be the one who must win. Kung Lao exploits Kintaro's overconfidence and defeats him. He then fights against Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, the Deadly Alliance, and defeats them both. And just when Kung Lao exults in his victory, Shao Kahn snaps his neck, which enrages Raiden and Liu Kang. Liu Kang defeats Shao Kahn and pierces his fist through the Emperor's chest, thus revealing a much darker side of the Shaolin warrior. Raiden is assured that Armageddon is finally prevented, but unfortunately, his amulet still cracks, as this is not the intended outcome to stop the apocalypse from happening. Quan Chi accelerates Shao Kahn's recovery and then resurrects Queen Sindel to remove her magic ward that prevents the Emperor from invading Earthrealm. The invasion then begins, and we see some changes such as Raiden saving Johnny Cage from being killed by Motaro. who is then killed by the Thunder God. Kabal, who was a police officer and the partner of Curtis Stryker, was horribly burned by Kentaro. He is then taken to Outworld and is put on a breathing mask by Kano. Cyber Sub-Zero at first is on the side of Shao Kahn, but reprogrammed by Smoke to fight on Raiden's side. With Motaro dead, Shao Kahn then drains the souls from Shang Tsung and transfers them to Sindel, making her more powerful than ever. Cyber Sub-Zero then confronts Noob Saibot, who was the Elder Sub-Zero, Bi-Han. Kuai Liang defeats Noob Saibot by throwing him into the Soulnado, a tornado of souls. When Liu Kang and Raiden go to consult with the Elder Gods on how to stop Armageddon, these gutless deities do nothing to help as they believe Shao Kahn has done no wrong. Sindel then appears and kills all the heroes except Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade. Raiden tries to negotiate with Quan Chi, but is of no use. He then realizes that Shao Kahn cannot merge realms without victory in Mortal Kombat unless he faces the judgment of the Elder Gods. Raiden tells Liu Kang on how to stop Shao Kahn. Liu Kang believes that Raiden has lost it and the two of them fight, with the Thunder God accidentally killing Liu Kang. Raiden is shocked at what he has done, and Liu Kang's final words are, "You killed us all." Raiden then bows to Shao Kahn, who then proceeds to beat him up, much like in the beginning of the game. Suddenly, the Elder Gods appear and empower Raiden, who finally defeats the Emperor. As punishment for violating the rules of Mortal Kombat, the Elder Gods destroy him. Raiden, Sonya, and Johnny Cage mourn the fallen and leave to rebuild the world. It turns out that Shinnok had masterminded all of these events and begins the next phase of his plan to invade both Earthrealm and Outworld.
Get over here!
2 years have passed since Shao Kahn's defeat. Shinnok attacks Earthrealm with his Netherrealm army. The warriors that died during Kahn's invasion have become evil revenants under Quan Chi's control and are now fighting for the Netherrealm. A strike team led by Johnny Cage, Sonya Blade, and Kenshi open a portal to Raiden's Sky Temple and head to the Jinsei Chamber, the source of Earthrealm's life force. At the Sky Temple, Raiden and Fujin are battling Shinnok's forces to keep them from the Jinsei Chamber, but they are subdued. When Shinnok is about to kill Sonya, Johnny rushes to defend her, inadvertently awakening ancient superhuman powers within himself. Using his newfound powers, Johnny holds the fallen Elder God at bay long enough for Raiden to steal Shinnok's amulet and imprison him inside of it, but Quan Chi escapes. Johnny, Raiden, and Sonya track him to his lair in the Netherrealm, where they defeat him, successfully restoring Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Jax back to human form in the process after Quan Chi's failed attempt to turn Cage into a Revenant, though the Necromancer escapes once again. In the years that follow, Johnny and Sonya marry and have a daughter, Cassandra Cage, but you can call her Cassie. Unfortunately, their marriage doesn't last very long. Jax marries and has a daughter, Jackie. Scorpion, who now uses his name, Hanzo Hasashi, restores the Shirai Ryu clan while mentoring Kenshi's son, Takeda. Sub-Zero kills Sector and becomes the new Grandmaster of the Lin Kuei and vows to reform it. To end his feud with Hasashi, Sub-Zero uses the data from Sector's memory banks, detailing Quan Chi's various manipulations of the Lin Kuei, including the truth about the death of Hasashi's wife and son. Meanwhile, on Outworld, after Shao Kahn's defeat, Mileena takes over as the Empress. However, her reign is a lot worse and more oppressive than that of Shao Kahn's rule. That is when General Kotal, D'Vorah, and Reptile join to overthrow her as they know the truth about her. When Mileena and Baraka arrive to kill Kotal for conspiring against her, Ermac turns against her as well. Baraka is killed by D'Vorah, and now General Kotal becomes Kotal Khan. 20 years have passed, and now a new generation of fighters is born. Cassie Cage, Jackie Briggs, Takahashi Takeda, and Kung Lao's nephew, Kung Jin. After undergoing a training exercise with Sub-Zero, they are deployed to Outworld to resolve a civil war between former Empress Mileena, who has obtained Shinnok's amulet from Kano, and the current Emperor Kotal Khan, with whom Earthrealm has a fragile peace treaty. Thanks to Kano, after receiving a beatdown from Sonya at a refugee camp, they learn the location of Mileena. Mileena is then defeated and executed by D'Vorah in the most grotesque way. Oh god, I think I'm gonna get sick after watching this. It is later revealed that D'Vorah is a double agent working for Quan Chi, who is then captured by Jax, who was reinstated into the Special Forces. Learning of Quan Chi's captivity, Hanzo Hasashi arrives to personally execute him. Thanks to D'Vorah, who has obtained the amulet, Shinnok is released before Quan Chi is decapitated. With the help of Quan Chi's revenants, Shinnok and D'Vorah manage to seize the Sky Temple by subduing Raiden and Bo' Rai Cho in the process. Shinnok then enters a Jinsei and corrupts it, transforming himself into a powerful demon in the process. Cassie and her team then pursue Shinnok, but are forced to fight Kotal Khan, who is forced to kill the team to appease Shinnok and give Outworld time to bolster their forces. But thanks to Sub-Zero and the reformed Lin Kuei, they head to the Sky Temple. Cassie and her team fight the Revenants, and she tries to save her father. She fights against D'Vorah and defeats her. When Shinnok tortures Johnny with his amulet, Cassie's dormant powers awaken and the final battle begins. Shinnok then gets caged by Cassie, and Raiden then goes into the corrupted Jinsei to cleanse it. The Cage family reunites as Shinnok and D'Vorah are taken away by Special Forces. Raiden, who now appears corrupted and with a more vengeful and wrathful personality, appears before the new rulers of the Netherrealm, the undead Liu Kang and Kitana, issues a warning that if they try to attack Earthrealm, they will be destroyed without mercy, and throws them Shinnok's head as an example. He then leaves, saying, "There are fates worse than death." Some time has passed after Shinnok's defeat at the hands of Cassie Cage. Raiden has become a dark, vengeful, and wrathful god, hell-bent on protecting Earthrealm by any means necessary. Sounds familiar, right? He is seen torturing Shinnok and then decapitates him to take his head to Liu Kang and Kitana, who have become the new rulers of the Netherrealm, as a warning. Then we see the Keeper of Time, Kronika, who is Shinnok's mommy dearest and vows to take revenge by erasing Raiden from existence. 2 years later, the Special Forces led by Johnny, Sonya, Cassie, and Jackie launch a full-scale assault on the Netherrealm Castle with the assistance of Raiden. Though victorious, it was costly as Sonya Blade dies. That is when Kronika offers Liu Kang and Kitana an alliance and rebuilds the Netherrealm Castle. She then creates a time storm that erases Dark Raiden and brings the younger versions of both heroes and villains throughout the series, such as Johnny Cage, Sonya Blade, Jax, Kung Lao, Liu Kang, Kitana, Jade, Scorpion, Kano, Erron Black, Scarlet, Baraka, and even Shao Kahn himself. It is a clash of past and present as heroes fight alongside heroes and villains. Raiden, Kung Lao, and Liu Kang form an alliance with Kotal Khan. When Raiden consults with the Elder Gods to help fight against Kronika, they unfortunately cannot due to the time storm draining their power reserves. That is when Shinnok's twin sister, Cetrion, appeals to tell the Thunder God on how to defeat her mother, and in an act of betrayal, she kills the Elder Gods. The way to defeat Kronika is by obtaining her Crown of Souls. So Raiden sent a squad of heroes to Shang Tsung's abandoned island. That is when Cetrion appears and manipulates present-day Jax to take the crown and give it to Kronika. When Hanzo Hasashi is mortally wounded by D'Vorah, he tells his younger self to not follow a path of vengeance and hate and join with Raiden. Raiden is very distrustful of Scorpion due to Shinnok's amulet influencing him. He becomes a lot darker and vengeful and comes into conflict with Liu Kang. Just when the fight is about to end like in Mortal Kombat 9, Raiden then comes to his senses and sees multiple timelines where Kronika has manipulated both Raiden and Liu Kang against each other. The younger Liu Kang is captured by Kronika and assimilates him with his present Revenant version, but this plan is in vain as Raiden merges himself with Liu Kang, who becomes Fire God Liu Kang, and so begins the climactic final battle against Kronika, and the newly born god Liu Kang defeats Cetrion. Kronika is in control of time as she absorbs the power of her daughter Cetrion. This gives her the power to rewind back in time to the beginning of the universe, but the Fire God Liu Kang is immune to this rewinding. There are several possible outcomes to the ending. If Kronika wins, she kills Liu Kang and restarts time. If Liu Kang wins, he creates a new era with Kitana. The canonical ending is Liu Kang defeating Kronika and meeting with a now mortal Raiden, who becomes his advisor. But this is not over yet, as due to time travel shenanigans, leads to the events of Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath.
Then together, let us begin.
Well, people, this is it. The final chapter in the alternate timeline of Mortal Kombat, which started with Mortal Kombat 9. Following the events of Mortal Kombat 11, Raiden and Liu Kang attempt to fix history, but then, unbeknownst to them, Nightwolf, Shang Tsung, and the Wind God Fujin appear still alive due to being stuck in a time-immune prison. Ever the manipulating schemer, Shang Tsung suggested to Liu Kang to send him, Nightwolf, and Fujin back to the time of the Time Storm to obtain the Crown of Souls before Kronika gets her hands on it. Raiden understandably has his suspicions, but Liu Kang goes through with it. Shang Tsung has plans of his own, such as resurrecting a fully powered Sindel, who in this timeline is revealed to have been always on the side of evil. Shang Tsung then wears a crown to harness the powers of Kronika and rejuvenate himself. Because of Shang Tsung, Khan and Sindel are seemingly victorious as they turn on Kronika and kill the undead versions of Kung Lao, Jade, and even Kitana. But Shang Tsung then absorbs the souls of Sindel and Shao Kahn, defeats Kronika, and is about to reshape time in his own twisted image. The Fire God Liu Kang then appears, who anticipated all of this, and the two engage in one final battle, much like in the original timeline in the first Mortal Kombat game. If Shang Tsung wins, he resets the timeline, creating a new era where he becomes a Titan and rules over all, with Raiden and Fujin as his loyal advisors. The canonical ending is where Liu Kang wins the final battle, resets the timeline to create his new era, and we see the Great Kung Lao at the Wuxi Academy. Liu Kang then appears before the Great Kung Lao and begins his training, and so, the timeline has been rebooted. After becoming the new Keeper of Time, the Fire God Liu Kang has created a new era. In this new era, a lot of things and key characters have changed, such as enemies being allies and friends. Liu Kang then recruits fighters for a new and less violent Mortal Kombat tournament. These fighters are Johnny Cage, a washed-up actor, Kenshi, an ex-Yakuza member and expert swordsman, and Shaolin monks Raiden and Kung Lao, who are now farmers. Shang Tsung is an ordinary citizen of Outworld, revealed to be a con artist. That is until someone called Damashi tells him that he is fated to become a great warrior and is offered great power. And so, he rediscovers his powers as a sorcerer and even becomes advisor to Outworld's Empress, Sindel. Rumors spread that Liu Kang may be weakening Outworld for his own purposes, creating internal conflict. Kitana and Mileena are now biological sisters, but the latter is infected with a disease known as Tarkat, which gives her that iconic snarling mouth of hers. But her disease is suppressed with a serum. Scorpion and Sub-Zero are brothers in this new era, but it is later revealed that Bi-Han has assassinated his father in order to become the Grandmaster of the Lin Kuei clan. There are many conflicts that occur in this story, and it is revealed that the Damashi with Kronika's likeness was none other than Shang Tsung from the timeline where he defeated both Kronika and the Fire God Liu Kang. It turns out that no matter how much things are changed, fate has a way to restore things to their true nature. This leads to an all-out conflict between the forces of good and evil, and of course, Liu Kang's team wins and wipes out Shang Tsung from existence and sends all his champions back to their respective timelines and universes. In this expanded storyline of Mortal Kombat 1, Liu Kang rallies champions such as Scorpion and Cyrax to stop the Titan Havoc, who seeks to plunge all realms into chaos by merging the timelines. In this story, Bi-Han has taken full control of the Lin Kuei, while Kuai Liang is now Grandmaster of the Shirai Ryu, where Hanzo Hasashi is training under him. Cyrax, much like in the original timeline, is one that doesn't blindly follow orders, unlike Sector. And speaking of Cyrax and Sector in this new timeline, they are women. Interesting, ain't it? During Kuai Liang's wedding with Harumi gone wrong, Cyrax betrays the Lin Kuei after being played by Bi-Han. Cyrax is then spared by Kuai Liang thanks to Harumi. Mileena, now the Empress of Outworld, wants Bi-Han and Sector dead for aiding General Shao, but Liu Kang and Kitana convince her to grant them clemency. Titan Havoc then appears and reveals his awareness of the multiple timelines thanks to Titan Shang Tsung, and a big fight ensues in which Geras is captured. Titan Havoc plans to steal Geras' crystals and merge them with the Kamidogu artifacts to destroy the multiverse of Mortal Kombat as we know it. Liu Kang and his allies then travel across multiple timelines, and many died during this conflict. Bi-Han becomes Noob Saibot because of Titan Havoc, but the heroes accomplish each and every one of their missions. Geras is saved, and they steal the Kamidogu from Titan Havoc's clutches. Liu Kang then severs Bi-Han's connection with Titan Havoc, who is not going to let things slide. He then takes back the Kamidogu and uses them to augment his powers. Noob Saibot defeats Titan Havoc and is about to kill him, but is stopped by Liu Kang to prevent him from taking billions of innocent lives. Bi-Han tries to attack Liu Kang, but he is frozen in suspended animation by Geras. As for Havoc, he is sent to the Void, a place separated from time and space. In the end, Sector becomes the new Grandmaster of the Lin Kuei, Cyrax becomes a member of the Shirai Ryu, and Noob Saibot is sent to the Shirai Ryu headquarters in order to find a cure for him. And that is all for the Mortal Kombat timeline, everyone. I gotta say that I liked a lot of the Mortal Kombat games, but some games, well, they just were not too good. I did this timeline not just because I'm a fan of the franchise, but because I am looking forward to the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection coming this month. I gotta say that this timeline was pretty long and confusing in some cases like Mortal Kombat 1, but what was interesting is that no matter how much you try to change the past in a story like this, you could end up making things worse, because as they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And that's it, combatants. I hope you enjoyed the second episode of World of Timelines. As for the next episode, I am not telling what it will be. So take care, and I will see you all in the next episode. Thanks.